Oh, we got some
Okay,
more people joining as well.
perfect.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining this. My name is Rachel Gumbiade. I am a housing development project manager with the Raleigh Housing Authority. I have some of my colleagues on here as well, who are going to go and explain, part of this presentation with me. But I wanted to go ahead and get it kicked off and give you all an update on where we stand with the three communities. So we called this the incentive housing communities. This is for Chavis Heights, Capitol Park, and Walnut Terrace. And actually, if when we before we get too into the weeds of everything, if everybody could go into the chat feature and type your name and what community you are a resident of. We are required to keep attendance for these meetings, so this helps us. So if you could do that, and I'll go ahead and get started with the agenda for the meeting. Okay, and if you know of any neighbors that may need any type of accommodation to be able to receive this information better, please let us know if you do as well, if you need us to possibly translate it, or if you know of a neighbor that may need it, please let us know and we will get that for you. And then next slide. Okay, and then, like I said, these are the three communities that we're going to be discussing today. So these are our incentive housing communities. All right, so we are going to, for today's meeting, give a quick recap on what we discussed in the previous meetings. I think this was back in February, so it's been a bit of time. And then we did receive our chat from HUD, so we'll talk about that, as well as the future plans, and then our next steps with the RAD process and resident rights. And Laura is going to be covering the later half of that. All right, so HUD CHAP approval. So CHAP stands for Commitment to Enter into a Housing Assistance Payment Contract. And what that means for us, so if you remember back in our previous meetings, we talked about doing this RAD conversion, and what we had to do was go ahead and apply to HUD for this. So you went ahead, we applied, and HUD has approved us to receive a CHAP. And CHAP really is our okay from HUD to go ahead and create a plan for these communities. Um, Going through this conversion process does allow us the stable funding for your rental subsidy, as well as funding for those major capital improvements that we would need to go ahead and do down the road. I know a lot, these three communities are newer, and so you may not see as much that needs to be done around the property, but down the road, there will be things that have to get done, like a roof replacement or, a parking lot being repaved. Any siding work, all of that stuff adds up and it's extremely expensive. So with public housing funding being completely depleted, this is our best option to be able to continue keeping your property looking amazing and then also providing that rental subsidy that's important for you all as residents. Um, so it's not going to lead to a loss of units. That will all stay the same. Um, it's everything is just really to continue being able to keep this affordable housing project, looking great and the health and safety aspect as well for the residents, and keeping your rental subsidy. Um, so next slide. And so we do not have a definitive plan right now. Um, this approval from HUD means that we can go ahead and start creating this plan. But we do not plan on doing any type of major rehab or redevelopment for these properties. Like I said earlier, these are newer properties. So really the goal is to make sure that we have the financial stability to continue providing that rental subsidy as well as down the road major improvements to the projects. Right. And then this is our timeline. This is a general RAD timeline. So we are still in kind of the first bit of this process. We're going through, this is our second resident meeting. We will have a concept call with HUD to discuss our plans, and then we'll have to submit a financing plan to HUD so that we can then get our commitment from them and get to a closing. Like I said, this is not a redevelopment project or major rehab. So that end part that says construction or repairs. So repairs would be most likely at best, but this isn't a redevelopment project, so you're not going to see any like major, demolition occurring or anything of that nature. Um, in the top part of that, you'll see relocation discussions would not begin prior to late 2027. Um, these three projects, the relocation will be optional. Like I said, because we're not doing a major rehab or redevelopment here, relocation is an option for you all under this RAD conversion and this program, but it's not required. And so I don't want people to start panicking, and even then that relocation, that optional relocation, those discussions would not begin until, towards the end of 2027. So no need to, panic or any, worry that you have to move right now or do anything. Really, this is just, we're still in the very early stages of this process. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Laura.
Thank you. So my name is Laura. I am the Director of Resident Services, and we have a few smaller teams in that department, one of which is our service coordinators. You may know Miss Suzanne Sands. She is assigned for the incentive properties. Then we also have a dedicated relocation team, and that is one of the reasons I am here tonight is to speak about what they do. But before we talk about relocation, let's talk a little bit about resident rights because it's always important that you know what your rights are under RAD. The first right is that you have the right to ample notice, and that we will take your comments and feedback. That's what we're doing here tonight is we are trying to communicate to you all the updates in the process, keep you informed along the way, and give you an opportunity to ask questions or give us your feedback. We really aim for you to be involved as much as you want to and have that opportunity as opposed to not feeling like you had the opportunity along the way. Another resident right is the choice mobility option. Now, this is assuming we get all the way through that timeline and we have switched to the Section 8 platform from public housing. One of the things that would be offered to you, which is kind of cool, and that you don't have currently under public housing, is that you would have the right to take your affordable rent and leave RHA's portfolio and properties if you wanted to. You wouldn't have to. But that is an option that exists in Section 8 that doesn't exist currently in public housing. And you would need to sign your lease for 12 months and we would have to be issuing vouchers. So there are some conditions apply. Those are HUD rules. But you could essentially take your Section 8 voucher and go anywhere within Wake County or anywhere within any state that the landlord would accept it and your affordable rent could go with you. So just keep that in mind. We can only offer you in public housing what RHA manages, but having a Section 8 voucher makes the opportunities go beyond that. But everything we're talking about here tonight, whether we're talking public housing or Section 8, is still going to be income-based rent. So regardless of the program, you still have the right to have your rent calculated based on your income. Next slide. So relocation would not be required, but an option for residents. We are going through this process at other communities that are not in as good a shape as yours, and relocation is mandatory at some of those sites, but we are not anticipating that here. So please know if you do talk with somebody in another community and they tell you they are having to go through relocation, that would be specific to that community. But with our incentive properties, you all are our newest sites, you are in good shape. And so we will open relocation if you want to, but there is absolutely no need for you to change and move unless you would like to do that. If you decide to relocate, we are going to help you in a few different ways. And that is where that relocation team comes in. So we have dedicated staff, and it is their job to help make the moving process as easy as possible for our residents. Moving is never easy, but it can be made easier, and that is our goal, is to work through things like housing counseling services, service coordination, helping you identify landlords or moving companies, or having resources available. All of those things will be able to help you with that. And that is not something that would be taking place if you were to, say, just coming off the Section 8 waiting list. This is specific to us going through these conversion processes. You do have the right to a resident organization. That's resident council. So you have that right now under public housing, and you will continue to have that under Section 8. You have the right to either nominate yourself or a neighbor to represent you with your business to the housing authority, and to provide resident perspectives and give us that information as we make plans and everything else throughout the year. Next slide. So like I said, we have a dedicated relocation team to make the process, excuse me, as easy as possible. They are working at other sites right now, so we are not physically located in Chavis Heights, Capitol Park, or Walnut Terrace. But we do have our phone numbers up on the screen. You can go ahead and give us a call if you have questions. Like we said, we're not planning on opening an optional relocation until 2027. But we're happy to take your calls now, or if you would like us to come out and set up an appointment to meet you on site, we're happy to do that as well. Next slide. So with optional relocation, when we say optional relocation, what we mean is you have the option to either A, stay in your current unit, or B, relocate. And that option is yours. So we will have times where we're potentially reaching out with surveys or phone calls, or other ways to help gauge which residents are interested in staying put versus which ones would like to relocate. But you are totally in the driver's seat as to how you want to answer that. There's no right or wrong answer, but we do need some guidance as to what path you want to stick down, what's best for your household. I will say the only caveat is if there is some sort of serious health and safety issue specific to your unit. So let's say we're in hurricane season and a roof gets damaged because a tree falls on it, or there's a flood that affects a unit, something that is a serious health and safety problem, we will come to you and ask you to relocate. That is the same as it is today under your current lease. We have to have you in a safe and healthy unit. That is our promise to you as residents, and that will continue. But that would be on a case-by-case scenario if something unexpected were to occur. And when we say you have the option to relocate, that can look a few different ways. You could relocate to another RHA owned and managed community. The community you live in now may not have been your first community here with RHA. You have the option to move to another RHA property, or you have the option to get a voucher in one of our voucher programs. There are different types of vouchers and programs that RHA operates, and we will make those vouchers available to you that we have available at the time of your relocation. Next slide. So we do have different programs, like I said. So this chart is just a chart to help you think through what those programs look like. So from top to bottom, we have different considerations, and then from left to right, we have how those considerations apply to different programs. So this is just to help you think through deciding if you want to relocate, what a program might be that's best for you. Are you interested in moving to a property that makes sure your security deposit that you've already paid for at Chavis Heights or another site transfers? So then maybe you're interested in staying in an RHA property. Are you interested in going to a property where you can take a voucher and leave Wake County? So maybe you want to look at one of our housing choice properties, or not properties, programs. Are you interested in continuing to live in a community that has a CIS Wake Community Center? All of those things are different considerations for families, and there are X's or check marks or maybe a few words based on how those different considerations look under each program. We're not asking that you give us a preferred program tonight or that you give us any of this information back as to what you think will work for you. It is simply just to help you start thinking through what program you may be most interested in the future. Next slide. So the key takeaways of tonight's presentation is first of all, you're still in a public housing lease at current. So we still need you to be making your rent payments. If you have any kind of lease concerns or violations, make sure you're talking with your property management office now. That is a very separate conversation from redevelopment and relocations. Nobody should be getting lease violations because of development activity. So if there is a lease violation currently, please talk with your property manager so you can cure that. We are still operating these buildings and these communities. So if you have bugs, maintenance needs, if you see something, please continue to report that so that we can take a look at it and hopefully address that for you. And please be on the lookout for any correspondence from us for surveys or for any kind of preparation or future meetings. We will be giving out that information as we continue through that process. If you remember from the timeline, there are 7 steps and we're about step 2 to 3. So we still have lots of steps to get through. So we will still be sending in correspondence to keeping you all in the loop, but just keep your eyes peeled for that. Next slide. We also have on the screen, we have an email address. It is relocation@rhaonline.com. If you have any questions outside of this meeting, you are welcome to send it to that email address. That comes to a few different people on our team. So whatever the question is, we'll make sure we direct it to the most knowledgeable person. We're happy to take your questions now and answer them, even though we are still a ways out on the timeline. Again, we don't have any firm plans regarding the incentive communities other than we have a plan to make a plan. And we would love to get your feedback and comment while we're going through the plan making process. But we also want you to be comfortable and confident in knowing that you do have a right to residency. Nothing that we've talked about tonight will change the fact that you qualify to receive assistance currently, that you will still have an affordable roof over your head. Your roof may look different if you do decide to do the optional relocation, but you do still have a right to have affordable housing, and that housing will be based on the HUD calculations for the income-based rent. And with that, we will open it up to any questions that we may have on the floor. There are no wrong questions. We're happy to sit here and talk about anything that may have come up for you as you listen to our presentation. You can either put it in the chat or you can come off of mute. And I am putting my direct contact information in the chat as well. If you would prefer to maybe ask a question one-on-one, that's fine. But we are also happy to take questions in a group setting. All right. Okay, so we do have a question. When can I start to choose? I'm assuming this means choosing relocation. So again, that would be the end of next year's when we anticipate that. But, timelines are always subject to change, but that is our best estimate at this time. And again, we will reach out and have conversations with you all, and we will just need you to help us pick the path we're going down. And then we are glad to have that path worked out and take your considerations into the account. But we are a year and some change we expect from that point today. You were worried you would need to move from Walnut Terrace in the near future. No, we are not. We're not planning on anybody moving from Walnut Terrace. HUD does tell us that there are certain things we have to make aware that come with the program, and that language can be a little scary and intimidating. We understand that. But specifically with these three sites, you all are in very good shape. So we are not thinking any of you will have to relocate at all. If you would like to, that is fine. We can work with you on that, but nobody will need to. What exact date does my 12-month choice mobility start? Great question. So let's say you want the choice mobility option. What you would do is you would sign a lease for Walnut Terrace, like a 1-year lease, just like you do now, under the Section 8 program, and that lease date would start your clock for the 12-month period. And then after that 12 months, you could come back to the Housing Authority and say, I'm really interested in getting a voucher that I can move with, or port is the word that's used. And we will start that process with you and look at, are we issuing vouchers, and getting you on the list to be issued a voucher if there is a little bit of a delay. But definitely we can start that process and those conversations. It is 12 months from the time that you would sign the Section 8 lease at Walnut Terrace after we get through this closing process for RAD.
Right.
Any questions?
Not seeing any more.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for coming and spending the night with us. We will have this recording on our website if you would like to touch base and refresh on any information. If you see any neighbors that may have missed our meetings, please let them know that we will get the information to them another way, and be on the lookout for more correspondence.
All right. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening.
Thank you.